Yo, what is good, dev guys? It's your boy Kane. Yes, sir. I'm back with another video. In this video, I'm about to teach you guys how to do one of the most annoying things I've ever been through in my life. Oh my god, bro. We're going to rename this Lyra starter game bullshit to whatever your project is. All right. So you can see I'm starting with a fresh Lyra project. I will say that this does work with a existing project. I just did it with a contract project that I'm working on, and I will admit it was probably the most annoying thing, but I didn't know about the tricks that I'm about to show you right now. So let's jump right into it. First, let me generate these Visual Studio project files. Actually, we're going to skip that. And let's start from where you guys would be. So I'm gonna generate this Visual Studio project because I'm pretty sure that none of you guys have started a Lyra game project from scratch, and you probably already knee deep into that muff by now. You know what I'm saying? So this is what your directory will look like. You probably have something in here like your own source files or whatever. One thing I want to say is make sure that you have some form of source control. Me, I use Plastic SCM. You can see here I got all these different branches for programming, level design, my character build system, and my test branch, which we haven't done anything with yet. But just make sure you have some kind of backup just in case this shit don't work for you, because I don't want to hear, hey man, I broke my project, what do I do? So we're going to go through this exactly how I just went through it. So the first thing you want to do is come here and rename this. I want to call this turn up. Now let's think of something that I'll remember, because I'll probably forget that. Let's just call this project YouTube, like that. So first thing you want to do is rename your U project file, then right click and open this puppy up with Notepad, and then replace this Lyra game with project YouTube, same way you typed it. Just replace project YouTube with whatever your project name is. Go ahead and file, save this. Now we want to get into the hard stuff. All right. So here's a smart way to do it if you have an existing project. So I am going to file. Well, let's just create a new folder on my desktop here. Just make a new folder. I'm not going to give it a name. We're just going to use it to drag some stuff into here. So I want to drag my source folder in here, and I want to drag my config folder in here, and just control drag it in here and copy it into here. This way we working on a copy of these and not the actual ones, just in case we screw up somewhere. All right, so come to this source folder, and this is where it's gonna get hectic. All right, so let's go ahead and call this project YouTube right here. So you need to rename that Lyra game folder to project YouTube. You need to rename this Lyra editor folder to project YouTube editor. And now we need to go ahead and rename all these target files. So wherever you see Lyra, just put the name of your project. I'm gonna just say project YouTube like this. Rename Lyra project YouTube. For you people who know Python, you can probably build a Python script to just replace the word Lyra with another word, but I am not a Python developer. A project YouTube, and you can understand how tedious this is without an automation tool. This might force me to learn Python just so I can write a tool and put it on the marketplace. So yeah, just replace Lyra with project YouTube or whatever your project name. Remember that project YouTube is just what I'm fucking calling this to show you guys how this is going to work. Now we need to go into all of these files. For me, when I double click into a file like this, it automatically opens in VS Code. But for you, if you have another text editor, it'll be whatever that text editor is. So we just want to replace Lyra. So just highlight Lyra, press Control H if you're in VS Code, and replace it with project YouTube. And I'm gonna just not replace all, because we don't want to replace this apply shared Lyra settings. We don't want to replace that one. We just want to replace everything else. And then we'll close that. VS Code automatically saves for you, so you don't need to worry about saving it if you're in VS Code. Do the same thing here, Control H, replace it with project YouTube. And I am going to copy this just so I don't have to type it again. And let's go through here, replace everyone except for the shared Lyra settings. Keep that in there. And we're doing this all across the board, guys. So here we want to search for Lyra as well. Control H, replace with your project name. So we'll just start from the top, replace, 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 replace. We want to skip this one, replace this one, replace this one, and then we'll replace the name of the string as well. That way everything is kind of equal here. So yeah, I'm gonna close out of that. Go into this project YouTube EOS joint here and just do the same thing. And you guys will see how tedious this is. I'm walking through this with y'all like every step so that I answer as few questions in my Discord as possible. All right. So you guys are gonna see me do this step by step. That way, if you fucked up, it's because you missed a step. All right, because I ain't skipping shit. Let me Control H, replace with this. Oh, well, let's go to the top, starting with this one here. Replace, 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 and leave that last one be. And now we're going into the project YouTube editor folder here. So we need to change this Lyra editor build.cs to what you guessed it, the name of your project, editor.build.cs. Same thing with this. We're looking to just replace Lyra with whatever you want to name your project. All right, so with those, now we need to go inside of here and fix up the references to this Lyra here. So let's Control H over this Lyra, replace it with Project YouTube, and we'll start from the top because we want to replace everything in here. Since we renamed the class, we need to rename the functions as well. So go into this CPP file, Control H over Lyra, and replace it with this. And here I would press replace all, but I did that once. And you see here, we don't need to replace these here. We don't need to replace. We can keep these the same because these are a name of classes that don't actually affect what we're trying to change here. So we keep that Lyra world settings. I want to change this though. Change this, 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 this. All of the function names we can change here. So, but if you see this Lyra world settings, Lyra world settings, don't change those because those are just classes that are inside of the actual code base, and we don't want to change those. Same thing with this here, this Lyra developer settings and the Lyra platform emulation settings. We don't want to change those. All right, so with that change, we can go ahead and close out of that. Let's go into the YouTube editor.h, and we can leave this be. It's just got a, looks like it just got a log here, but for here, we want to actually fix up some directories to this Lyra editor since we recently changed this to Project YouTube. Let's replace that one. Don't replace this. Don't replace the experience. Let's replace this namespace. We can leave the log, but a person like me, I'm going to replace it. All right, just so that the log says what I needed to say. So for this right here, this custom class, you don't have to change this because it's a custom class that's just inside of this class here. Scrolling down, we don't need to change the experience manager at all. We don't need to change this Lyra editor model, but we do need to change this Lyra editor to project. Let me make sure it did it to Project YouTube editor. All right, and then come up here to the build.cs. And let's go ahead and Control H. Let's start at the top and replace, 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 and replace. Oh my God, we just replaced it with nothing. Okay, so go back and replace it with Project Genesis. So replace, 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 and that's it. Okay, that's it for that. For these, we can leave these alone. You don't have to change any of these. These are not referencing Lyra in any way that could affect what we're doing here. Next thing we want to do is go to this Project YouTube folder, and we need to change not all of these, but this module here, this game module, we need to rename this to project YouTube game module. And then this Lyra game build.cs. We need to change this to project YouTube game build.cs. And then we want to open up this build.cs and change this Lyra game here. And also, let's go ahead and just do it the easy way, where we Control H here and replace it with that. Let's replace and replace. So should look like this. Go ahead, exit out of that. And then back to this project YouTube game module. We want to replace our old name, which is this puppy here. So let's do Control H. And let's replace it with project YouTube. So let's start at the top and replace, 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 and replace. So now we have that for our module. We can exit out of that. So yeah, let's go ahead and first off, let's delete this .sln file, delete binaries, build, intermediate, and saved. And then we want to just set ourselves up to kind of get ready for building the new solution files. So I'm gonna open that directory back up on my folder here. And hopefully I was working in the right, yep, I was working in the right folder. So let's go to config now. And now we need to change the default engine INI. We need to replace Lyra. We need to just look for Lyra. And hold on, we need to Control H, look for Lyra and replace it with project YouTube. Hit find, and let's go ahead and say replace, 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 replace. We're going to script engine.engine. You should be in the same place as me if you're doing this along with me. So what basically we're just replacing all of the references inside of the project to our newly named project. Our newly named project name. So we're just replace. We don't want to replace Lyra Asset Manager. That will be the same. Replace this. We don't want to replace Lyra World Settings. We want to replace this. Anything that represents Lyra Game is basically saying the path of Lyra Game dot whatever this class name is. Since we changed the name of the parent class, this is what we want to focus on renaming. So let's go find next. Replace, find next. We don't want to replace any blueprint stuff. Leave all the blueprint stuff as is. Just look for that Lyra game. Leave all that blueprint stuff as is. So I think with the rest of this, we're pretty much good to go. Yeah, we don't need to replace any of the Lyra chase channels. Those things can stay the same because when you build, hold on, we need to go back. Hold on, let me go back. Where is this one at? We need to replace this one. Either replace that one. Sorry. So replace the significance manager. And the game name, we want to set this to our name, the project YouTube name. And hit find next. And if it takes you back to the top, we should be good to go. So file, save that default engine INI. Come into the default game, do the same thing here. We want to change the project name to project YouTube. And what this will do is just change it in the Unreal Engine launcher, even though, you know, some of us don't use that. I just literally launch my project from the solution file. But we want to change all of these things. So what I'm gonna look for is Lyra game because it's a little bit easier to find that. So we're gonna go Lyra game and then replace it to project YouTube game like that. So replace, replace, replace. We don't want to replace that. We want to replace that. We don't want to replace that. We want to replace that. We don't want to replace Lyra game path. This is a variable that is inside of the asset manager that's looking for this actual name here. And it also fills the variable with this data right here. So we don't want to change that or your project will crash every time you open it. So find next. And it sounds like, oh, this guy's so smart. Hell no, it took me 3 hours to find this shit and fix it. Like, boy, I was sitting on this shit for 3 hours doing this. All right, so Lyra game data, we don't want to change that, but we do want to change this Lyra game here. So replace that one. Don't replace that. Replace this. if you see script / Lyra game, replace that shit. All right. But don't replace the dot after the dot, because that is now you're getting into the class names and you really don't want to do that. So just be smart, take your time. Like I said, we're going through all of this together. Build target, we're changing that to project YouTube game. Script, change that. Audio settings, change that. Do not change this. We're back at the top, so we can go ahead and save. And that's what we needed for that. Let's go ahead and let me do my double check here. I think Windows engine.ini is fine. Window game is fine. Default gameplay tag. Let's just make sure we don't have anything here that needs to be replaced. Just, always double check. Look for Lyra game here. You see we got script Lyra game, so we want to replace that. Let's go ahead and just do this one manually. Control V, and that is it for that. And yes, we want to save. Scalability, nothing in there. Did I look at runtime options? I did. No, I didn't. Okay, so you see we have this Lyra game here. We want to replace that as well. And then file, save this. Yeah, I think we're pretty much done with the config. So now we're getting to the nitty of the gritty. All right, so what we want to do is first, let me show you guys how to be safe here. Let's make a backup folder inside of here that holds our original config and source here, and drag that, copy it into backup, just so we'll have it. And then we want to delete both of these, and then drag in these puppies and copy them to Lyra starter game or wherever whatever you call this. So the one thing you also could do is come back here and change this to project YouTube game, just so all the naming is correct. So now if we right click and build this, let's go ahead and generate this Visual Studio project files. Oh, we're getting an error. It says that something must return a type. So this is in the project YouTube editor.build.cs. So let's go source, project YouTube editor, build.cs. And it says it must return a type. I'm seeing, okay, so pretty much we have editor right here, but we have project YouTube editor down here, and it's not able to return the correct type. So we just need to copy project YouTube editor up to where we had editor. I might have messed that up. You guys maybe didn't mess that up. So congrats to you. So close out of that, and then let's delete the intermediate and the saved again, just so nothing goes wrong. And let's generate those Visual Studio files again. All right, we got some green bars. So now we got a .sln file, and we need to right click on this and edit it with preferably JetBrains Writer. You know what I'm saying? Give me a sponsorship, baby. But yeah, preferably with JetBrains Writer. But of course, I believe you can do this inside of Visual Studio as well. What we need to do now is we need to go to the config, go to default engine ini. We do need to add a redirect here under script /engine.engine. And this redirect needs to read like this, a plus sign. It needs to say active game name redirects. And we need to set this equal to open parentheses old game name. And this is a variable. And this needs to equal a string value here. And then we're going to call script with a capital S. And it needs to be script /Lyra game, like that. Close the parentheses, put a comma, and then we want to replace it with space new game name. And this needs to be also equal to a string value of script /project YouTube game, like that. And then close that, and then close the parenthesis and file save this. So I'm gonna close this, and with Lyra done building, let's go ahead and I'm gonna go and debug game first. So debug game editor, and then I'm going to compile this and run the project. All right, so first error we get is could not find the definition for module Lyra game reference via target shooter game runtime build.cs. So if I double click on that, it doesn't do anything. So let me just navigate to Project YouTube plugins, and I know that shooter core runtime is inside of shooter core, the source, and then shooter runtime.build.cs. So this one is referencing Lyra game, and that says editor. We want this to say game. So let me copy this into my copy buffer. This one is referencing Lyra game, and also the top-down arena is referencing Lyra game. So we need to go into both build.cs's and replace Lyra game with project YouTube game. So now when we build a project, we should be fine. It should run here. All right, so here we are. This is the error I was looking for. So it says this Lyra ready interface uses undefined class Lyra game API. So basically what I want to do is just double click to that so it'll take me to it, and then I want to highlight this. And this is the trick that I didn't know existed until like Googling. I was like, bro, I'm tired of doing this one by one. There's got to be a way. So you press Control Shift and H, and this will find this in all the files of the entire directory or solution, however you want to do it. And you can replace this with, let's replace it. I'm going to copy this, just put it here. And we want to replace this with project YouTube, all caps, game underscore API. I'm going to just hit replace all. Yes. And now let's give that puppy, let's say one large file was ignored. What was that? Let's give this puppy another run here. Okay, now we got a few files that are still referencing our old Lyra editor. But if you guys remember correctly, we pretty much replaced Lyra editor with project YouTube editor. So what we need to do is undo this, and let's look for all instances of this in the project. So Control Shift H, and let's replace this with project YouTube editor. And for this, I'm going to take my time here because we don't want to overwrite something that doesn't need to be overwritten. So I'm going to replace one by one. And like I said, this is very tedious work. But wherever Lyra editor exists, we need to replace it with YouTube editor. We could do replace all, but some of them we don't want to replace. Like this Lyra editor module, we don't want to replace the enum because that's the enum that's just created for this. So things like this, we don't want to replace it either. That's a custom class. Yeah, these things we don't want to replace. So, but these includes, we want to replace those for sure because it's including the wrong namespace, including the wrong file directory. But the namespace, don't change that. It's up to you to change the logs. For this tutorial, I'm gonna just skip it because it's already feeling like it's taking long. Just looking for the includes, and we replace those. And then let's give it another build and see what we get. So we're getting a lot of cannot include, no such file directory exists. This actually does exist. This Lyra development settings, Lyra platform settings. Let's go into the developer folder. Not that one. Let's go into source. I'm gonna close this plugin. Project YouTube. Let's look for development. Yeah, we got Lyra developer settings, which it exists. So pretty much what this is telling me is that it's having a hard time opening my Lyra, pretty much my base code base. It's having trouble locating that. So I think it's because right here we got Project YouTube, and initially I believe it's called Project YouTube Game. So I think this by default is called Lyra Game. So what I'm gonna do is exit out of this. Let's open this up in a window explorer, and let's go to Project YouTube Game and rename this, or this is named Project YouTube, but we need to name this Project YouTube Game because I'm giving it the path of Project YouTube Game, but there is no Project YouTube Game actual path. So let's delete those binaries. The idea, that's rider specific, intermediate, saved, and even the .sln file. And let's just regenerate these puppies here. Go ahead, open that back up with rider. Project YouTube is still this here. That might be a problem here. Let me build this and see what happens. All right, so this looks like it's a problem because it's not declared. I'm pretty sure. I think we declared it as Lyra log editor. So I'm gonna just go back and paste that. That'll fix that. These other errors are kind of weird. I'm guessing it's a namespace thing. Let me see if I might have renamed this editor load module here. So I'm gonna control F on just editor load module. And yes, here I accidentally renamed this to a Project YouTube editor load module, but we don't want to do that. I'm gonna copy this, paste this here. I don't want to rename any of the interior things that are just being used within a class that I'm renaming. So that, I believe that will fix that. Let me just hit build. I'm not gonna run. Let me just hit build. Okay, yeah, building 9 actions, 9 processes. That makes a little bit more sense. This is less likely to be an error. Okay, so we got a successful build. You know what that means. I'm gonna run that puppy and see what errors we run into inside the editor. Okay, it says the following modules are missing or built with a different engine, Project YouTube. Technically, it should be Project YouTube Game. So this is still causing me issues with this. It didn't rename that. So what I'm gonna do is, I think, let me just go in here and edit this with, open with Notepad. So yeah, we're using Project YouTube, but this needs to be Project YouTube Game. Go ahead and save this. And then I'm going to, once again, delete this intermediate saved binaries vs idea folders here. And regenerate the Visual Studio project files. And that should give me the Project YouTube Game.sln. I might be wrong here. Okay, I'm still getting Project YouTube.sln, but let me see. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so they gave us a successful build. So I'm gonna run the project here and see what we run into here. Okay, so it's saying that it failed to load my Project YouTube Game Project YouTube Game viewport client, and that's because I screwed up somewhere. So this is going to cause an issue here. So I need to stop this. And what I need to do is go to my default engine INI, and this could have, this is how, like, how important it is to take your time here, because a lot of these things are found by strings. And config, let's go to engine. But it's also good to show you guys like what you need to do if you run into an edit, like an object, or like an issue here. So this needs to go back to Lyra game viewport, because this is the name of the actual class that we're looking for, but it's saved inside of this directory. So if I run that, we shouldn't get that error. All right, that virtual reality pack shit is there for every project. I don't know what that is, but if we save this and say we wanted to build our project so that it'll have our name, because that's what most people want. Like, they want to package the project so that it'll have the project YouTube name under it. So let's cook this content. This might take a while since it's the first time cooking the content. But set it to, just make sure you use the project settings, because it should just be on development, and use the project setting for the build target, which is Project YouTube Game, and go ahead and cook the content. And I'll show you the error that pops up when this happens here. So what I like to do is just filter out for just errors, You see here, this error is not important. This is a stupid error. All right, here it is. This is the error I'm talking about. This will make our build fail out here. And let me just cancel it myself because I know it's going to fail. So right here, it says packaging results error, cannot set game feature data shooter core to manage asset because, and it gives you this script.lyra game because script.lyra game doesn't exist. And that's because we renamed everything in the project properly. So if we go to if you don't have plugins showing here, just make sure you guys show plugin content turn on. So plugins, shooter core content, and come to the shooter core and right click on it and say show in Explorer. This will open it up in the Windows Explorer for you so I can show you guys what is happening here. So if you open this with Notepad, you'll see that this asset itself is referencing, where is it? Let me just Control F for Lyra game. This asset is still referencing Lyra game for every one of its passed in values that gets passed into it. So this is kind of an issue with this whole thing here. Like, even if you find like an automation tool that'll do this, you'll still have to come and do what I'm about to show you next, because this asset has literally cooked these Lyra game references into it. So what we need to do is just right click inside of the shooter game game feature plugin content folder, and we need to make another game feature data. So go to miscellaneous data asset, and in here just find game feature data, select that, and let's just call this shooter core and put an _1 for it. Eventually we're going to delete this one, but let's open up both of them. Close this, open up both of them. I'm gonna save here. And then come to this shooter core, and what you can do is right click on this actions and copy this, and then come over here and paste it here, and it'll paste all 4 of those actions. And then right click on this asset manager, primary assets to scan tab here, copy that, and then come over here and paste this as well. So this will paste it exactly how it is, what was set up over here reference wise. So now what we can do is actually delete this shooter core version here, force delete that, and then let's save this one, but then let's save it as shooter core, because everything that's referencing shooter core is referencing it as shooter core. So now when you go to, cook your content, I'm gonna go to Windows, cook content, you won't see this error. So if I clear this, you won't see this error pop up, and it should cook successfully, and I'll come back when it does. Okay, so here we got a cooking complete here. We show the output log. We'll have some warnings. Actually, shit, we don't got no warnings. Okay, we got some messages. Okay, we got messages that just let us know what happened here. So if you were to package this, and I'm going to package it as well so you can see the end result here. So if you package the project, you will see, let's just put it in a folder inside of here called my builds, pretty much, and select this folder. So yeah, you'll see that when you package it, instead of it saying lyragame.exe, it'll package it as project YouTube game.exe. Yeah, so with the packaging successful here, let's go ahead and navigate to where we save that, my builds. So if we go into Windows here, you'll see instead of this being Lyra game, it's now project YouTube game.exe. And unfortunately, this is the only way that you can rename the project. You have to go in and rename all of those files. So starting, this is even starting from a project that was fresh and clean. So just imagine if you've got a lot of your own modules and things like that, you have to rename all those modules. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. If you like this video, go ahead, give it a like, share it, please share it in the forums, the dev community forums on Epic Games. There are some text versions of this tutorial, but I, like a lot of developers, I do better with visual learning. Even though I did do this from a text tutorial, but I do better with visual learning. It's just a little bit easier for me to not make mistakes and not spend 3 hours doing something. So I hope this helped you save some time, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.